Alright, welcome if you're new to the channel, welcome back if you're already one of the smart people subscribing. Hockenheim National A. Hockenheim, I know Hockenheim well. I know Hockenheim Short A well. National A is different. It confused my brain for a little bit. So if you're not familiar with this one, it may take a couple of laps to get used to it. It feels so familiar, but there's a couple of real different parts to it. So setup is also a little bit different. It doesn't have the big long straights as the full track, but it is got bigger straights than the short A. So ride height is not as low as it goes, not so much. Minus 13 millimeters. I'm not sure what that is in standard, but it's about 4 clicks up from the lowest. ARB in the front is 0. Damper compression is up. There's a couple of downhill spots where you're braking, so the compression is turned up a little bit. Brake bias depends on you, of course. Probably a little bit on the higher side. 57.5 is what I'm using. Even 58, I might think would be okay, but brake bias is an individual thing. And this is a dry setup, of course. I'll just say that. So if it's wet, this setup is probably not going to be the best. So spring rates in the front are as low as they go. Camber, if you know my channel, I like to fool around with that to get the tire temps and wear a little more even. The left side is doing all the work, so it's 1.8 on the left here, and then 1.1 on the right. You don't have to fool around with the camber if it's not going to make a big difference, but I do find it does help a little bit. Towing is turned up. Um, the ARB is 0, so we'll talk about that in a second. Spring rates in the rear is 1 notch up from the softest. And again, that's the ARB is 0, and having the back end a little stiffer is giving the car a little more rotation. Again, camber's changed up here a bit in the rear, and the toe in is increased quite a bit in the rear as well. That is to help with braking. Some very hard braking corners here, and you really want to get that braking distance as short as possible, obviously. Um, so uh, the rear, again, just one click higher than the front. ARB is 0, like I had mentioned, so the spring rates are turned up in the rear just to give the car more rotation. If you find the car is too understeery, you could go 5 mils. That will give you some more rotation, but there are some also high speed corners here, so having that ARB down to 0 does give the car a little bit more stability, I find, through those high speed corners. Gear stack is standard. Yeah, the short actually doesn't work too bad. I did try the short, but there's a couple of awkward corners with the short. So standard I find is best. 13 liters is what I have it set at. However, you're probably in a dry race, you're probably going to need 14, um, even possibly 15, depending on what the leaders are doing and how fast they're going. So just be aware of that. 13 liters, I don't think you're going to get to the end in the dry. All right, so we'll get to the guide here. We'll run it out in slow-mo and then at full speed. Track is 21 degrees. Usage is 38, so I mean, pretty blah. Gonna do a 31.8. Obviously, it's not my optimal time. It's my best time. There's a couple of corners here. We'll just talk about where I did mess things up. So coming into turn 1, fourth gear course, watch out if you are drafting. You are going to be coming in here hotter, so watch out for that. You're looking for this Marshall box on the left in fourth gear. Daba brakes down into third gear. You can do this in fourth, but fourth is very risky. If you don't mind getting that X, fourth certainly does work. And you want to get on that curb. I could have even taken this curb a little bit more than this. If you get too greedy, I think if you cross this white line with your left tire, you do get a slowdown, I believe, for corner cutting. So watch out for that, but you can take a little bit more than I did there. And picking up the throttle on exit, and actually, in all honesty, I don't know how I didn't get an X here. I'm not quite sure what the exact rule is for the X, but I did not get the X here. Not the biggest thing unless it's your qualifying lap. You will get a couple X's there, but practice that corner. It is definitely hard, and you have to be back on track before the end of this white line. Otherwise, I do believe you do get an X. And if you go way over to the left, you get a slowdown, a very painful one as well. So watch out for that. So fourth gear, looking for this 100 board and gonna get on the brakes just at this pavement patch here. Down into first gear, this is a really hard braking zone. You can come in here deeper, you can brake later, but you are going to sacrifice speed on exit. But if you're battling somebody, it can be done. Down into first, and then getting right into this sausage curb in the camber of this corner. And then I probably could have picked up the throttle a little earlier here, but picking up the throttle as early as you can. And it is a bit of a straight here, a section of full speed. It's not actually straight, this part, but you are on full throttle until the next corner. So this is going to be probably a big passing opportunity. You have to be way over to the left for this one. So watch for people trying to go on the inside, looking for this 100 board and braking just before it. Again, you can brake a little deeper into this one, but you are going to sacrifice speed on exit. So hard on the brakes, down into first gear, and as you're approaching it, if you can see it depending on your view, the grass section here, you want to make sure your left tire is lined up with the left edge of that. So yeah, watch out though. Definitely going to be a passing opportunity here. So hard on the brakes. I've played around with running out a little wider here and turning in a little sharper. Overall, I find it's a little bit slower to do it that way, so I find tucking in to the curb here to be the fastest way around. And then just sort of a little bit of throttle, and you have to watch here. So everything's fine and dandy here, but once you get past this curb, now it is downhill, and you have to have a little bit of throttle on. You do not want to have the brake on at this point. If you do, that back end is going to step out. So a little bit of throttle, picking it up as early as possible, and that's just the fastest way anyway, but that'll help keep the rear end planted and right up tight against that sausage curb, and then just unwinding the wheel and working your way up into second, and into third, I think we get up to. Yeah, so third. Now, you want to get your right-hand tire lined up with the curb here, just to open this up again. Probably people be diving up the inside here, but just as you approach the curb, getting on the brake, shifting down into first. This is a bit of a tricky corner. Again, you start to go downhill here a bit, so you got to get off the brakes and pick up that throttle just to get that back end more planted. And right up tight against the sausage curb there, I got, I think, just a touch of a bounce. You do not want to hit that sausage curb, take more of it than that, otherwise that is going to disrupt the car and you are going to have a bad day. And then working up the gears here. So getting onto the curb here just to open this up, and then turning in just before the end of the curb, so just about where the last blue stripe is. Now this is one corner where I did definitely lose a little bit of time. I'm getting right into the green stuff here over top of the curb, which is fine. That's why the ride height is a little higher. It makes going over these curbs a little bit more less disruptive to the car, especially turn 1, going over that sausage curb. But I did find that actually riding your right tire on the curb here is faster. If you get into this stuff, it does slow you down just a smidge. Not a big difference, but the faster way is, I found, to keep your tire on that curb. And then just accelerating up, opening up the wheel, working yourself over to the left side here. There's a little bit of a rut here, a drainage thing. No big deal. It's not really going to slow you down. Now this is a bit of a tricky one. There used to be more markings on the wall here to use as a turn-in point. So anyway, just a downshift into third. There's no real great marker. I kind of judge it by the whatever this is, cell tower or something here, or the end of the trees here perhaps. Down into third, just a little bit of brake. You can come in here in fourth, but it's pretty hard to manage, and you really want to turn in early. It's turning in earlier than you think, and you want to get on this green stuff, and you can get all 4 tires here off the track. They don't mind, and picking up the throttle. You do have to watch though. Like I said, you got to turn in earlier than you think. At this point, you want to have the car pretty much turned in. If you put a lot of wheel input into this, if you turned in too late and you come in here with the wheel turned more than I do, it can get you spinning out, so watch out for that. And then just getting on the throttle and drifting out to the left here, and again I got just a little too wide here. I touched the sand, just grazed it. If you go way over, it's probably next, but I just grazed it, and that slowed me down a little bit as well. What you do have to watch out for is if you come out here and you have just one tire on this side, it can grab your wheel and cause you to have a little snap of oversteer. So just again, watch out the wheel input here as you go over those curbs, because they're multi-layered, so you don't want to have too much input in there. You got to be nice and easy getting back on track. You don't want to turn it too sharp, otherwise it will snatch your tire. And then the 50 board here just before it, or actually, and again, this is one where I lost some time. So I'm braking just before the 50 board, but actually the better way is to brake just after the 50 board and have your tire on the right hand side here. This is where I lost a little bit of time from my optimum time. So down into second gear though, and it's a pretty good blast of brakes. You want to get the braking done while the car is straight, and then again releasing the brake and picking up the throttle as early as you can. You do not want to be coming into this corner with the brake on, even though the camber is quite, even though the corner is quite cambered. If you have brakes on and you're turning the wheel, this is a pretty sharp corner. You are going to spin, so watch out. And on exit, you can use all of this green stuff. You can cross this white line. You can get onto this green stuff. It is forgiving, so make use of that. Don't sweat it if you came in there a little hot. And then again, getting into this green stuff, I do find is the faster way through this part. Third gear, leaving it in third gear. Now, this is a tricky spot for a braking marker, for a turn-in marker, but basically you can see the track starts to go downhill. So at that point you want to be shifting down into second. I could have been over probably a little bit more than that. Little bit of brakes just to load up the front end a bit, get the turn in, and then you want to be picking up the throttle and getting onto the blue curb here. But I probably got just a little bit over there, too much. If you go over, it's okay with the ride height, you're going to survive, but it does disrupt the car a little bit. So try and keep it onto that blue one. And picking up the throttle again, and just, you want to get the car sort of straightened up. If you get over onto this black stuff, you're going to get an X, and this little sausage curb is going to disrupt it quite a bit, so don't get too wide there. And then at the end of the at the red curb here, turning in, just a touch of brakes just to load up the front end to get on full throttle, because you want to be on full throttle here. And another spot where I just lost a little bit of time, I'm not on full throttle. So came in a little bit too hot, just had to ease off the throttle a bit, unfortunately. And again, getting into that green stuff, I found is probably overall a little faster. If you keep it on the blue curb, and you nail it, it's probably faster. But consistently, if you get into this green one, it will not cost you very much time, and you will get the car rotated and keep it in bounds. So I like grabbing a little bit of that green, and then just working your way up into the gears. I came out here, I messed that corner up a little bit. You can use all of the blue curb here and the green on exit. You can cross that white line, you won't get an X. So yeah, and that is a 1:31.8. That should be pretty competitive time in the dry. The rain, well, that would be a very competitive time in the rain. So good luck out there. We'll run this out at full speed and see you next time.